select and see exactly what's going to go on. Of course, MLXG going to lose that Rengar straight up. That makes a whole lot of sense. And it is going to be the LeBlanc ban as well for God V, but I believe that is still Wayless.
I believe it is still Wayless. We'll wait for the confirmation when we see the members on this camera here, but the ban comes through from LeBlanc. Always a strong champion, even with the changes to Chalice, making it that much more safe to kind of pick up the 900 gold Chalice and much earlier get that early 25 magic resist to help you navigate the assassins like LeBlanc. LeBlanc in strong hands is something that really can be strong, so banned away. Aurelia actually is the ban here targeted at Sky. I actually mentioned it. Sky actually does have a very good win rate on their champion. Next to Maokai, one of his stronger performing champions, and banned away.
Yeah, and actually before entering the LPL, Sky had a 100% win rate on Aurelia in competitive play. So definitely worth banning that away from him, especially considering the fact that Aurelia is still very strong on this patch. A Vladimir ban, Papa Smithy.
The Vladimir ban. Actually, during the Demacia Cup semi-finals, they were loving Rumble Vladimir. Of course, Akon's Rumble, that one's a given, but Rumble Vladimir was the duo they were playing repeatedly. I mean,
and that's without any team books.
Yeah, and that was exactly not the Season 1 double Woda synergy coming through, just the single Woda in the middle. Now a selfish item rather than the double spell vamp stacking aura that some of these viewers might not actually have been around for many seasons ago. They were loving the synergy between those two champs. But with the Diana ban, another respect ban coming through from Wayless, that leaves the Sejuani open.
Yeah, leaves the Sejuani open, but this is, of course, 5.6. Zac is still up, the likes of Nautilus in the jungle, all sorts of massive tanks. But, of course, Sejuani, we saw her be so incredibly successful in especially our first game today.
It feels like the communication at the top level in LPL has really brought the most out of the Sejuani pick. The layering of CC we were seeing between Nara and Sejuani, for example, was exemplary. People were dying with their flash up during the 3 seconds of consistent CC. Assassin gets the Cho'Gath, 3-0 on the Cho'Gath. King have looked excellent, taking a game off OMG, I believe, with this Cho'Gath. Look, you never want to give up Sejuani, but if you lock in Cho'Gath when you're King, so far that's been a 100% win rate.
Yeah, and I mean, that Nautilus, that could be going into the jungle, that could be going into the top lane, it could be going into support. We have no idea where that one's going to be. It is a brilliant, most beautiful time, Papa Smithy, as we do have Wayless hovering over an Alistair here, and we'll see what LGD do to finalize the next couple of picks there in their comp, and
everyone's getting comfort.
Yeah, surprise Rumble. And by surprise, I mean we're pretty comfortable with that one. Is Akon, of course, a fantastic Rumble player, and PYL goes back to the Janna as well, so massive comfort champions to come through. That's an insta-locked Urgot there, Pop Smith. That's cool. Okay.
So I think this will definitely be more the space AD carry, or space from CJ Entis was playing AD carry Urgot at least.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more of a counter AD carry, but it still fulfills the AD carry role. So it's looking like it will probably be in the duo lane Urgot, just with the Cho'Gath lock. Of course, Cho'Gath could go top, so there is the... I mean, Cho'Gath jungle's even a thing.
Yeah.
King in general, I mean, they're thinking about the Maokai now, so they're just stacking champions that can kind of go anywhere. The flex pick team is coming through.
Stacking champions that have so much... The collective health of this team is going to be quadruple that of LGD.
I mean, Imp has to play either Kog'Maw and Vayne, so he insta-locks the Kog'Maw.
Yeah, you sort of have to at this stage. Of course, Lulu's still available here in the mid lane if they do want to go for some of that protection here for this Kog'Maw, but we'll see what POL does decide to go with. And Wayless looking at an Orianna, so the control mage is making a comeback.
I mean, he definitely doesn't have the ball carriers that are out on the King side. Maokai, Cho'Gath, Nautilus, even Urgot, all great ball carriers. He has only really the Sejuani for initiation, but the Wombo potential there is considerable. I think because of the lack of ball carriers, you kind of have to go maybe towards the Anivia for a bit more wave clear. This enemy comp has a lot of positioning bases to it, so I think the swap would have been important, but no, they're returning to the Orianna. A lot of indecision between those two picks. I feel like they're going to struggle because unless they get initiated upon, and to be honest, you see a lot of initiation coming through from King, but when if they're ever in the advantage here, LGD, how do they force a pick? Because the Glacial Prison, it can be, 800, 1,000 units ahead. Getting that Wombo ult between Glacial Prison and the Shockwave is deceptively difficult to pull off.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, I guess you can couple that with the fact that they do have a fair bit of area damage. Of course, that Shockwave covering an area, you can put that on top of an Equalizer here as well for a whole lot of sort of consistent damage as well. Mix that with that Glacial Prison, and you've got a whole lot of DPS. But looking now over to the King lineup, that is going to be a support Nautilus. And that's a Vi now in the jungle as well, who has been known to build very tanky. This King lineup is going to take a long time to die.
This King lineup wants to kill Kog'Maw as soon as possible. That's what you can tell from the last pick, Vi. There's no Morgana on this team comp. There is Janna, but she can't stop the Assault and Battery. So they will be getting at least one CC onto the Kog'Maw. The jungle matchup, I mean, Vi not necessarily the highest pressure early game jungler, but in skirmishes, you take her over a level 4, level 5 Sejuani.
Yeah, and the Vault Breaker always going to be a little bit more damage than that Arctic Assault in the early stages of the game. This is going to be an interesting matchup, though. Of course, a lot of consistent damage to come out of Orianna, but Cho'Gath just so strong and with so much sustain.
But in terms of laning, it's going to be wave clear mostly. The bottom lane matchup, Kog'Maw versus Urgot, we have not seen much of this.
Yeah,
that will be very, very interesting. You have to think lane swaps are kind of on the cards. Kog'Maw does have decent range, but again, it's when that Bioarcane Barrage is available. When it's down, you're definitely in the E range from Urgot, and you could take a lot of trade damage.
Yeah, well, it's true. And as long as that Corrosive Charge is going to be landing here from Wushin as well, I mean, that is a lot of consistent DPS off over a massive amount of range.
And no sustain, it's just a Janna. You can top him up with a shield, but the rest of the damage, those second and third Acid Hunters, they're going to register and really stick.
It's going to be very, very scary, but we'll see how it plays out, of course, because, I mean, there's a lot of massively tanky members on the side of King, but do they have enough damage? We're going to find out. Let's get on to the Rift. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with LGD taking on King for our second matchup of Week 10 of tonight here, as well as taking a few Acid Hunters here from Wushin in the river.
Chainsaws with this skin.
Yeah, chainsaw. Oh my goodness, the skin is so terrifying, Papa Smithy.
So butcher Urgot, and they're trying to butcher this Kog'Maw in general with the lineup they've got. You thought with the first 4 picks, the likes of Nautilus, the likes of Maokai, Cho'Gath, and Urgot, you had enough lockdown for an enemy AD carry. The only champion to really navigate damage and do it from range is Kog'Maw. Vayne probably would have been too risky at 550 range. You were going to be locked down by the likes of the Twisted Advance coming through from Maokai, let alone everything else on the King's side. So, I mean, Kog'Maw's the only realistic option. He doesn't have an escape. They don't have a Morgana. They have a Janna for disengage, but it's not enough against a million initiation options from King.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. And King, I mean, Assassin is going to have the easiest ruptures of his life with this team. I mean, Twisted Advance, Assault and Battery, so many options to come through. There's even Lamb with his ultimate as well, who can definitely lock down a target guaranteed. And we'll just see whether King can actually build up enough damage, because we know that, I mean, Cho'Gath can get to a point where he does heaps of burst with his combo.
So you might wonder why this draft kind of shook out this way. One of the big reasons is that with their second, so the first round of picks, remember, came through. We saw 2 tanky champions coming through from their King side. Then LGD locked in the Rumble. We were surprised Rumble was available in the third round of picks, but Rumble is another team fight champion. King have no siege whatsoever, but they saw that LGD was going for teamfight champions, so they went for teamfight themselves. This is basically fight central coming through from both sides.
Yeah.
There's not really rotational-based team comps coming through. Of course, Kog'Maw can do good turret damage with the Trinity Force. Janna gives move speed. They have the Dissonance coming through for, again, a bit more move speed. But Rumble Sejuani, you're looking for teamfights with those two. Orianna as well. And King, they have 425 range Urgot and 4 melee champions. They cannot look to siege turrets. They just want to fight at every opportunity.
Well, I mean, they have a lot of dive, though. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, they're not going to die exactly all that quickly on the side of King. So I guess theoretically they can just melee beat down on these turrets. But what they're going to decide to do is beat down on this dragon incredibly early in this game.
And this dragon was started at exactly the 3-minute mark. There's 3 very tanky champions coming through. Not sure what Nautilus is skilled up, but of course very inherently tanky. They're doing a good job trade tanking. MXG's only lost 100 health themselves. Lamb loses about 200. And this should be the first dragon at 3 minutes 21.
That is very, very fast. And what with Sky having % health damage, the denting blows coming through from MLXG, looked all too easy there for King. So that is a very, very fast first dragon. We'll see whether they can continue that through, because, of course, that means 5th dragon could potentially come through very early this game.
And the reactions coming through from LGD in terms of summoners are super interesting. I have never seen a Ghost Flash Orianna in a competitive game before, but you can understand that you kind of need to ghost the moment a team fight fight starts. Remember, the first person to play a control mage with Ghost Flash was Dade when he loved to play Ghost Flash Ziggs. You kind of have to do the same thing with Orianna, just because there's so much lockdown CC. You kind of need to be moving at 500 move speed throughout a fight. Otherwise, you're going to be locked down by just the embarrassment of riches in terms of lockdown CC that King has.
Yeah, and you need to be getting around that fight as well to make sure that you're getting the command protect onto the right targets here as well, because there's so much targeted lockdown to come through from King that there is just so much pick potential even in the middle of a team fight.
It's just crazy how much CC they have, and the fact that they have no interest whatsoever in taking turns. This is the first time I have ever seen a competitive game where the longest range champion is a 425 range Urgot on the King side.
That is absolutely ridiculous. It's almost to the point where
it's not even an option to siege.
Yeah.
You can't bluff rotations. What are you going to rotate with?
Assassin might almost have comparable range with the fact that he has the void
the model
spikes.
and the model size.
Yeah, exactly. Wait until he gets 6 stacks.
Got to rush that elixir of iron to do turret damage.
Yeah.
Cho'Gath. That's what it kind of feels like. They want to fight.
Yeah. We'll see whether they can here as well. TBQ making a little bit of a visit here to the bottom side. Akon using that scrap shield to prevent some of that acid hunter damage.
So in the early game, LGD had to lane swap. They saw the Urgot and they said, lane swap, lane swap, lane swap. They got the lane swap, but we already saw they were punished with the early dragon very, very early. There's actually a possibility that they will get a second dragon before Kog'Maw rotates back into the bottom lane.
Yeah.
That's how early the first dragon was. So to get 2 dragons because of the fact that they were vertically jungling on the bottom side would be even more than expected when it comes to a red side team when the blue side is as lane swap. So that could be potentially a big factor that we'll consider around, I believe, the 9-minute 21 when the dragon respawns. In this case, Kog'Maw just wants to get a bit of sustain, or at least a phage for a bit of the rage passive, for a bit of movement speed to ensure it's the 2 acid hunters, the 3 acid hunters, rather than necessarily the 4. So he just wants to get as much stats as possible to ensure this laning phase against Urgot is happier. It's always going to be a bit awful because Urgot functions more as an anti-carry rather than a true attack damage carry. Will probably build Frozen Heart at some point, doesn't start Doran Blade. As we see, I'm actually looking aggressively. He just wants to push in this wave.
Yeah, it's a decent Vault Breaker, though, doing a fair bit of damage to Imp there, as we're going to have a fair few extra hits, and Imp, that is going to be successfully the siege broken in the top lane, or the freeze, sorry, broken in the top lane.
Absolutely. It's kind of a weird metric, but as the lanes have developed, as lane swaps have developed, breaking a siege as a jungler is just as important as, say, blowing a flash in a 1v1 standard top lane matchup. You need to stop that freeze. Otherwise, your top laner can have double Dorans 10, 20 minutes into the game. So you need to help him as much as possible. Maokai has a lot of ranged push, a lot more than Rumble, who, although he has no resources, the base damage on the Flame Spitter doing reduced damage to minions and monsters means he can't push very well.
No, it's always sort of been Rumble's Achilles heel here as well, and it has meant that King probably more than happy with this lane swap situation. Of course, probably would have preferred to have that 2v2, what with the fact that, you know, Wushin and Liam with so much of this skirmishing power in these 2 picks that they have with all of this CC, but probably more than happy to make sure that Akon doesn't get too far ahead.
Absolutely. I think they'll be content with it. They would have preferred the 2v2, but if they get the double dragon, I think that kind of pushes it over in terms of a 1 early game, despite the fact that you don't get the counter laning matchup. That would have been difficult to engineer.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of double dragon myself. Wushin is going to keep clearing out these minions as Akon's doing his very best to clear this wave. Does do fairly well there under the turret as well. Very difficult as Rumble, but Akon showing the fact that he is an incredibly practiced Rumble player.
I spent the whole time during that sentence trying to shoehorn in a Streets of Rage reference, but I'm not able to do it. Unsuccessful on that one. Liam still managing to hold this wave. He does get the cannon minion. They want to deny as much CS as possible from Akon.
Yeah, doing the best that they can, but it seems that the wave is still continuing to push. Assassin going to use that Rupture, as you mentioned earlier, just to clear out these waves over and over again, but does have a fairly decent CS advantage here against an Orianna sort of known for agricultural abilities.
I can't believe it's very interesting to see him actually start Negatron Cloak. The Dredge line is flashed away from Akon. Definitely dodged the wrong way, so had to use his Summoner. They'll continue pushing. He still doesn't have Equalizer, so can't look for the ranged push. Just throwing down that Equalizer for wave control. And this should be the first turrets across the map.
Yeah, both top laners actually zoned away from these outer turrets here as well, as Imp is even going to use the ultimate to make sure that he can clear out these minions as fast as possible. And that whole wave going to be denied from Sky.
The wave clear continues in mid. The Negatron's really surprising to me just because I would have thought he would start moving towards some CDR, Morellonomicon, maybe the CDR boots. We've seen a couple of Rod of Ages Cho'Gath. Not a big fan of that build given his natural health stacking, but the Negatron Cloak shows just a bit more respect to the magic damage from Orianna Sejuani than I would kind of expect from a Cho'Gath. The thing about Cho'Gath versus Ori is that though they're both very good at wave clearing, Cho'Gath should at all points have more assassination potential than the Orianna. You can hit the QW combo, get the feast in for true damage, has taken the Ignite Summon, so has aggressive options. I thought the build would complement the aggressive options that the matchup naturally gives Cho'Gath versus the Orianna, but he's gone defensive, so probably going to be an Abyssal Scepter, and with the Fiendish Codex, at some point, the Morellonomicon.
Yeah, and maybe he just wants to build up the Negatron Cloak just in case there's any skirmishes, because you look over at the LGD lineup.
It's a lot of magic damage.
Yeah, the first 20 minutes, it's 100% magic damage, basically.
I mean, look, the Trinity Force will come through, but it's still only going to be pokey physical damage. Consistent Bioarcane barrage damage is magic, as PYL finds 2 members.
Yeah, finds 2 members and gets very, very locked down as well. MLXG going to blow the ultimate. That is going to be first blood for the jungler here as well. Wushin actually zoning Acorn away from this one at the same time. The swap comes in as well. He's landing so much consistent damage with these Qs coming through. One last one will do it, but will he have it here? He does have the flash, but it doesn't quite get there. MLXG with the Vault Breaker is going to be able to tank up this turret as Wushin last auto attack, and that's 2 quick kills for King.
King were actually desperately poor on engaging that turret dive. MLXG basically takes his whole health bar because Woosh wanted to hold on to his flash. I don't think it's really that necessary. Woosh almost died. If they had layered down a bit more damage, that we would have seen a dead MLXG from the turret aggro juggling. They get the kill, so I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but could have done that a lot more cleanly.
Yeah, and actually Wushin had been back to base as well. Already picked up that Muramana. It is a very, very quick timing here. Does still have a little bit more farm than Imp, who hasn't gone back to base yet. That might be a full Trinity Force when he heads back.
I'm not able to tab over to the gold just yet, but as you mentioned, looking at the CS 102, I believe it's about 110, 120 CS and a couple of assists that we've seen picking up a Trinity Force. So he's going to be very close to it at minimum when he goes for his first purchase. They don't have a Dragon timer, I guess. So, I mean, the second Dragon hasn't gone down. It's been respawned for a couple of minutes. King have been a bit slow, I guess, because of that sloppy turret dive. Yeah. They haven't really found a time to get the second Dragon. They should have opened up with the 3-minute 21 first complete.
But it is going to be the first turret being taken here by LGD. Finally, Imp is going to head back to base. 106 CS on this Cogmore before heading back for the first time. And King, they're going to use that opportunity to take down this second Dragon. TBQ is hanging around. Acorn here as well does have that equalizer at the ready. Just going to clear out some wards here as well as the Dragon's going to reset back into the middle of the pit. This might mean LGD have a slight option to come through. The Glacial Prison is available here as well, but it's going to be Assassin that locks that one down. MLXG forced to walk over that equalizer and flashes having to be burned. Assassin going to be in trouble, going to flash out of the way, and second Dragon goes down, and King, they get out with just a few flashes.
But 3 flashes for a second Dragon and complete control to LGD in terms of pushing this mid wave. If they can get the mid turret, it'll be a massive win for LGD. 3 flashes against an all-tank lineup that doesn't have the likes of the Sivir on the hunt to close that distance in a fight. Suddenly, Imp's life looks a lot safer when 3 flashes from the main engages are down.
Yeah, well, this is true. It is going to be a nice shield to come through from Wushin here just to stop some of that living artillery damage, but Imp doesn't quite have the Trinity Force, but with the most important components, he is still a force to be reckoned with.
He was about 400 gold away from completing it, so wasn't able to finally complete it. Probably has the gold already to pick up the Trinity Force, but no real rush to go pick it up because there's no Dragon to fight over necessarily. The scaling continues with Urgot. You have to imagine it's going to be the 40% CDR build between the Brutalizer, the Frozen Heart, and some Runes and Masteries to complement what comes through naturally from the Manamune, soon to be Muramana. One thing about finishing the Manamune soon early, that Muramana timing, 22, 23 minutes is what we'd expect.
Yeah, and Urgot just throws out so many Acid Hunters here as well, just generally in his playstyle. So going to be stacking that one up as quickly as he possibly can. The cooldown on that item, you can see almost constantly spinning here as we have a look down at that item in the items list. So we'll see when that transformation does come through, because we're sort of used to seeing Ezreals with that item, and it's going to come through a little bit quicker now on this Urgot.
And so, because we haven't seen Urgot yet in the LPL before this game, we should probably speak a little bit about why we're seeing the return of Urgot. The big change to him that really people have kind of taken notice of this Urgot pick is the fact that his shield now scales with maximum mana. You get 5% of your mana in shielding. So basically the way it works is that when you finish your Mirror Mana and your Frozen Heart, which are the 2 mana items you pick up as Urgot, you basically double your shield strength through just mana scaling. It's about 200, 250 mana shield, scaling you get from that ability. So you just have suddenly a 500 health shield rather than what was before, I believe, a 260 health shield, which is just such an extra amount of innate tankiness. You already have resist from your ultimate, so you get into a fight with an extra 250 health. That scales with the big amount of flat resist you get from your ultimate. And you're just so tanky, and you're still the anti-carry he always was. So the flexibility of the ultimate, the fact that it's a positional-based skill and a meta with Cogmores, it can be just so powerful as a kit for dealing with hyper carries like Vayne, and to a lesser extent, and especially in this game, the Cogmore.
Yeah, well, precisely. And not to mention the fact that when he has that shield activated, now with it being buffed up and lasting a whole lot longer, every auto attack going to be slowing down your targets. That's only more CC available for this bottom lane duo, as we've got the ultimate coming through onto Imp here, just more for disengage rather than anything else, because of course that Trinity Force making Imp a very dangerous opposition in that bottom side of the map.
I mean, ironically, with this duo lane, they both have abilities that are defensive that give them offensive stats. The slow coming through from Urgot with the W, and Nautilus, when has his own W up, has the extra magic damage on auto attack. So both of them, you kind of have to auto attack in a trade if you're Imp in this situation to stop them really getting the benefit of their kits.
Yeah, it's almost like whoever doesn't get autoed is actually going to be doing a fair bit of extra damage here as well. So we'll see whether Imp can spread the love there on the bottom side as far as the damage is concerned.
I was actually quite surprised to see Whoosh and Liam backing away from Imp when he went aggressive. Maybe they thought that there was some junglers around. But speaking of junglers,
ooh, MLXG looking for a potential ultimate, doesn't decide to use it as Wushin getting taken down solo here on the bottom side. PWL gets caught by the dredge line though here, as Imp's just going to flash forward. Very aggressive play, but the last Acid Hunter's going to lock it down. A 2-for-0 exchange, but in the River, we've got LGD going very aggressive. MLXG going to fall down. The bottom lane able to rotate, though, as TBQ's going to have to be very careful. Another dredge line. Lamb's got in there, but TBQ, he's going to survive. It's a nice bait to come through in the end by LGD, and the first kill of Godv or Wayless's game going to come through.
Yeah, 2 for 2 was the actual trade across multiple skirmishes. Whoosh completely outplayed Imp with the flash, opened up distance, and Nautilus was doing unignorable damage. That's what was interesting, Atlas. The damage from Nautilus actually picked up one of the kills. Brutalizer comes, so that's basically the damage core finished for Whoosh. Probably going to eventually be the Black Cleaver into just the Frozen Heart, maybe a late game Last Whisper. But Whoosh is getting dangerously close to level 11 as that ultimate, the hyperkinetic position reverser, starts to scale with levels. You get enough range at level 11 to be a bit more offensive with that ability rather than just using it on defensively on a diver. Suddenly the initiation options, look, they weren't a problem for King. We already noted in their lineup they had just an amazing bevy of initiation options. It's looking even better as this Urgot moves towards level 11.
Yeah, and actually Wushin going to pick up a Hex Drinker here as well. And you might think, oh, okay, why is he building that one against, you know, this AD carry in the bottom lane? But Imp is going to be doing a lot of magic damage for the next little while.
And he likes shields. We already mentioned the fact that the shield with the W's there. Now you're going to have an extra shield coming through from Hex Drinker. It's a very cost-effective item, and you can't look at Urgot like you do a traditional AD carry. He's more of an anti-carry. He wants to stay and do consistent damage in the front lines of a fight when he swaps himself in. Deceptively tanky with the changes, with the mana scaling on his W coming through, and just a frontline fighter. So go for a fighter item like the Hex Drinker.
Yeah, he has picked that one up. We'll see what he decides to go for next, whether that coveted Frozen Heart is going to come through sooner, or whether he's going to build that Last Whisper early on, make sure that he's still a damage threat in these fights.
I mean, Black Cleaver would usually be a consideration, but there's very little other physical damage. There's the Glacial Prison.
Yeah, the Glacial Prison coming through here as well. It is going to be an attempted zoning ultimate to come down from Liam, but it is just going to be the Urgot falling down immediately. A nice dredge line to get him to safety here, Liam in the bottom side, but LGD, they'll take their pick and they'll go.
Yeah, Cho'Gath was the first one of the mids to rotate, but wasn't able to come in just because Whoosh, he just overextended. He was too confident from the previous trade they won so landslidely 2-0 that he overextended, died through his heal, through his W. Actually, heal was on cooldown, and this should be the answering dragon coming through from LG. Just their first, but stops the 3-stack from coming through from King.
Yeah, but no towers to be taken yet from King, and Imp is going to have some free time here on the bottom side of the map as well. We'll see whether that last outer turret is going to fall down. Akon's been discovered here in the river, but Scrap Shield going to get him to safety here as well as Assassins Gonna have to go back into this middle lane.
So I mentioned the fact that King's team isn't really built for rotations. I don't know if that means Assassin can't go without boots at all. Kind of needs the boots for a bit of movement speed. I don't know how he possibly was the first to rotate bottom. Must have left about 3 waves early, but did get to the bottom lane. Needs some shoes just to get, because I mean, the thing about Cho'Gath is if you don't hit the Rupture, if your skills miss in a fight, you don't contribute anything at all. So you need the movement speed just to get in the best position to hit your skill shots, because if you miss them, again, you do nothing.
Yeah, but, I mean, I guess he doesn't need to worry about hitting a skill shot necessarily because his target's going to be locked down for so incredibly long that it may not ever really need... He can just lumber up to them and put down the Rupture, you know?
So much. Look at this magic just already built up. They've definitely taken to heart what you were mentioning earlier, Atlas, and understandably Imp working slowly towards his next item, probably going to be the Blade of the Ruined King, so physical damage still at a premium for LGD, still very much lacking. Double Hex Drinker, Abyssal Scepter is completed, Spectre's Cowl for the top, and even a Chalice, the newly cheaper Chalice coming through from Nautilus. They're team fight ready, and they need to be. That's all they can do. That's why you see so many early power spike items. They're only built to fight. The late game, if there's ever a siege war, Kog'Maw single-handedly will out-siege anything King put together.
This is the truth. This is the truth, but of course, Imp has to be very, very careful of an incredibly large amount of CC options that are going to come through from King, and we'll see whether King can actually orchestrate the team fights that they want, because of course, the most successful we've seen King are in these perfectly orchestrated team fights that they do manage to get.
But it feels like King have the comp that LGD is more known for with all the different CC options. LGD, what they need to do this game, whenever they go for the push, if they ever get to a situation where Kog'Maw's strong enough to siege, they need to pink ward their flanks. Because again, there's basically 5 champions that can flank LGD coming through from King. You need tabs on all 5 of them. Otherwise, again, one ultimate comes up. If Kog'Maw's knocked up 1 time, it's not going to stop there.
Oh, heck no. Heck no. He's going to be bouncing through the air here as well. You've got Ruptures, you've got Assault and Batteries, you've got Lamb there as well with just all of that CC. Sky's going to be knocking... I think everyone has an ability that does ridiculous things to a champion if given the chance. So,
and then Wish can swap people as well.
Yeah, swapping people around. You know, you don't know where you are. You don't know whether you're in the sky, on the ground. It's just ridiculous. But hasn't happened just yet. And LGD have managed to get around this map and pick off these towers. And King Assassin does have a lot of wave clear, so can clear out these waves here in the mid lane, stop these pushes from coming through. But, I mean, he's only a Cho'Gath, and you've already mentioned the fact that he's not all that quick.
He's not all that quick. The 3rd Dragon will actually help with movement speed just for, I mean, they're kind of wave clear rotations, not pure rotations. They're not going to rotate like we were talking about in Game 1 to get turrets. That's not the situation here for King. They just want to rotate and look for fights. We see Maokai's going back. Do they have a flank wall? They have one option just to the left of the mid rush where the outer turret would have been. They need to start fighting, because if they just get poked out, I mean, their comp's basically negated. There's the ultimate.
Yeah, the ult comes through from Lamb, looking for something here as MLXG right into the middle of this fight. Assault and Battery into the back line, onto, in fact, Whalers here on the back. The Equalizer not quite finding the targets it wants to, but Acorn is going to take down MLXG, the only casualty in this fight thus far. Titan's Wrath is going to be trying to help here as it's a really nice 2-man Shockwave. Lamb getting taken down solo, Imp doing so much damage. He is going to have to face off against Assassin, who does manage to pick up the kill in the end, but a 3-for-1, an LGD out teamfight, the teamfight.
I mean, King were desperately poor in that engage. Diving through was MLXG with a max channel Vault Breaker and the Assault and Battery. About 1,100, 1,200 units of gap close, but Whoosh and Assassin just couldn't get to the fight. They were separated by a screen away from the other members. You need to coordinate your fights with clear communication. This is an old Chinese lineup. There should be no ambiguities about communication, but it was desperately off. And in that situation, if you let LGD kite backwards with the likes of Janna for disengage, the movement speed from dissonance, and in general, their mobility, if Imp is living and doing consistent damage and kiting backwards, we're going to see from this replay. So the ultimate comes in from Nautilus. With all this gap close, they need to back away. But watch, MLXG, Vault Breaker's in, then ults Whalers. Nautilus isn't in the shot. Cho'Gath not in the shot. Or Urgot not in the shot till now. MLXG just dies for free in the backline before the Cho'Gath and Whoosh can even get to the fight. And that's the issue. They allowed LGD to kite back. With their flashes available, they can close so much distance. It's a lovely double Shockwave that picks up the first kill. It ends up just a 2-for-1, I believe, overall. but you can't fight like that, King. With your short ranges, you need to all be in the same screen. You need to all be in a clump to some degree. It doesn't sound like an ideal thing against the Orianna ultimate, but realistically, they all need to be fighting in short range because we've already established their ranges, they're short.
Yeah, well, and they also have to be fighting together here as well. King sort of rely on keeping a target locked down with multiple members CC to really be effective. And we saw there that if MLXG dives too far, especially onto the Orianna instead of the consistent damage in the Cosmo, things could go wrong. But we'll see whether they change it up for the next fight, of course. Early days now for King. Not too much of a gold lead to be spoken of here for LGD, and they are still down a dragon. So, of course, 3,000 gold in the lead. Nothing to write home about.
I mean, Imp kept his flash up through that whole fight. Wayless had to use both his escape summoners, but Ghost will be up soon. Again, execution heavy is King's comp. Even though they have so many execution options, they need to, again, have the communication, like you say, go in together. They didn't manage it in the previous fight, and that has caused a bit of snowball, at least in terms of map pressure. LGD get an uncontested dragon. Now have the 2 dragons with a Kog'Maw moving towards the 5 dragons, where they'll really be able to power down even this uber tanky comp coming through from King. And as Imp gets more and more farm, actually looks like a Bloodthirster going to be second pickup, again, to navigate these fights with the defensive shield and the 20% lifesteal. Teamfights get more and more manageable for LGD, and King's power spikes, they definitely don't skew towards the late game. They need to make it count in the mid game, and they're starting to fall behind. 3,000 gold is the lead for LGD.
Yeah, and what we haven't really spoken about as well is TBQ has always been so far ahead in farmers. Actually, P-Whale's going to get caught out here just a little bit. Monsoon going to get him to safety. MLXG did use the ultimate there, so ultimate's traded here by our support and junglers. Might give King some time on this turret. But TBQ has been so far ahead in farm. Another ult to come down.
Zoning ultimate, I believe. They just need to get this structure, but again, with their lack of turret damage, they have to back away.
Yeah, MLXG, oh my goodness, caught by just the end of that shockwave by Wayless. Definitely still keeping up with the Orianna play here. Has been beautiful thus far. And that's a very nice pick, and MLXG just hasn't been very impressive on this fight today.
And with that, I mean, they used the Nautilus ultimate. It looked like it was zoning ultimate, but they didn't turn around and do turret damage, kind of tanked it for a moment, then was psyched out by the teleport coming through from Akon, so backed away, got no turret damage whatsoever. Now the Baron bait's coming through. No ranged champions, only the sapling really to check this structure. Man, fighting around these situations with no wards is a scary thing when you have no ranged auto attackers on the King side.
Oh, yeah. It was a decent scrying orb just to check whether that Baron was going down. Of course, LGD now with a whole lot of guaranteed vision. You can head back there if they want to, but going to give it up for now. Just happy with the fact that they have that area on lockdown.
Yeah, so they haven't been able to find room for a Frozen Heart on, which makes sense to some degree. Of course, going for the armor stack, not necessarily ideal, but at least the Glacial Shard for a bit more cooldown. There's actually some mathematics behind how Urgot works in terms of getting the maximum amount of Acid Hunters out onto a target. I believe you need over 30% CDR. It's around 32% CDR, to, I think 32.5 from memory. It's an old statistic because we haven't seen a lot of Urgot recently.
We certainly haven't.
But you need definitely more CDR than he has. He's only got 10% CDR showing as Sky's caught, but very tanky.
He's very, very tanky. Takes a shockwave and just sort of laughs it off here on the bottom side as Wayless going to continue to farm out. Just sending a message with the ultimate.
Has the last whisper. Again, needs to work on the cooldown reduction, does Whoosh, just to get the most damage out. But the armor stacking isn't going to happen till the late game, but Kog'Maw with the Bloodthirster, probably the next item coming through from Kog'Maw will be an Infinity Edge or just a bit more attack speed and crit, maybe just a Phantom Dance, and that's when the Kog'Maw's physical damage will really start to hit the high gear we know.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. As soon as that attack speed starts coming through, Imp is going to be gigantic in these fights, and I love the pickup of the Bloodthirster because he knows he has a target painted on his face.
And this is what Crystal's been doing on Kog'Maw specifically when we see them play the Protect the Kog'Maw comp, but even in general in his build. When the enemy team has so many different abilities to initiate, he's invariably going to take damage from one of these sources, whether it's the targeted damage from Assault and Battery or some of the poke from Cho'Gath and Maokai. So having the high lifesteal, okay, you don't have the Infinity Edge for just the craziest amount of single target damage. Your damage might be even lower than a Blade of the Ruined King, but it's comparable to the Blade of the Ruined King, and it's just so much safer. And Kog'Maw living during the fight is going to do so much more damage than Kog'Maw getting some lucky crits than die.
Yeah, well, precisely. He's not necessarily a burst champion here, is Kog'Maw. Just really wants to be in there consistently auto-attacking from a huge range. But Wayless now as well, 3 items strong. Has a Liandry's as his second item choice here. So wants a whole lot of consistent damage, and I love that against Assassin. The Feast stats giving you so much extra health. Wushin, Liam, everyone on this King lineup is going to have huge health values, so why not cut down that in percentage health damage?
And now, I mean, the popularity of Liandry's, maybe it's about to jump up with all the health stacking we've been mentioning. Liandry's, you do a lot of consistent damage as Orianna. Your dissonance, of course, is a slow, so you get the longer proc coming through from the Liandry's for even more percentage current HP burn. King split pushing in the bottom, so at least they've managed to rotate that situation, but Acorn's coming in. Don't think he's going to be able to burst down the tree, and he backs away.
No, not going to be able to this time. Sky with now a 2-level advantage here on the bottom side. Sort of an unsung hero of King, able to split push out these waves as the big tree almost has that Righteous Glory completed to complement this Spirit Visage, which is already there. And MLXG, what do you think about the Cinderhulk Vi?
Cinderhulk Vi is fine, I guess. I mean, it doesn't seem ideal just because you're more about damage than the necessary tankiness of Vi. You're about your initial burst, you know, the early denting bros back into the excessive force. That's usually what you're doing as Vi, so that's why we usually see Warrior into maybe a Phage. Trinity Force is probably too expensive for competitive play, but we've seen stranger things come through in Vi builds. In this situation, I just feel like she doesn't really do much apart from lock down, then walk around and die. Like, that's really all she's going to contribute to a fight. So if they don't get the picture-perfect engage from MLXG, which is what we saw in the replay, is just, again, over-engaging, screens away. Now there's been kind of this quiet period. Everyone's got their flashes up again. Double escape summoners up for the Orianna. You just worry that if we again see this screen-long, hilariously high-distance assault and battery, this won't be the follow-up CC to justify the Vi pick.
Yeah, it may not happen, but King going to continue to push out this mid wave. Sky heading back to base here as well. Will have the option of picking up the Home Guard boots and the Righteous Glory, you have to think, after that split push. But there's the Glacial Prison onto 3 members. A beautiful equalizer layered on top, as well as the Shockwave at the top of your screen. And my goodness, 2 members just exploding to TBQ. Wushin now in so much trouble. He's going to try and swap under this one, but that's just going to get him closer to the members of LGD. And that was some beautiful initiation.
Yeah, execution required from King. Execution done by LGD. Love the initiation onto 3 members coming through. The Glacial Prisons in tonight's LPL, only 3 games in, have been picture perfect. They're going to take a turret. They're already burning down this Baron. Of course, Liandry's does a lot of work against Baron as well with the current HP damage. They're getting everything here, LGD, and it feels like King have already been outscaled.
They have, and you can see, my goodness, just ridiculous Baron damage, and they split up and took down inner turrets and a Baron at the same time.
Isn't it nice when you get your cake, eat it too, and some extra cherries, please, waitress? They got everything.
They asked for the ice cream on the side, most definitely, Papa Smithy. LGD just playing their team comp beautifully, and King, I loved the idea that they had coming into this one, but they haven't been able to execute it.
I mean, you just can't afford to misfire. That's the thing. That we saw the big misfire, and now it's come to the point where it's kind of irrelevant. Might see another engage. TBQ, he's big.
Yeah, Lamb actually trying to get out of this one, but MLXG just going to ult himself into it. Monsoon comes out, though, and Imp just going to turn around and try and destroy this Vi Assassin. He's been caught. PYL is going to take the credit for that kill, and MLXG, he's just going to back away here. A lot of flashing health bars as LGD going to take down their 3rd dragon. That is going to be the movement speed. MLXG slowed down a little bit by that equalizer and then burnt to death by Akon.
Akon's Rumble still a thing to be fair. Doesn't have that much kill participation, but 217 out of 12. I guess 75% is pretty respectable.
Yeah,
good
still
use,
pretty good.
Just with the AoE slow was enough to get in melee range for the overheated Flame Spitter coming through. Imp's going to take another turret, 5 turrets to 2. 10,000 gold with a scaling advantage. It's Orianna Cogmore, remember. Can't ask for much more scaling than that. LGD, they haven't broken the base necessary, but they've broken the hearts of King.
Yeah, and they've also got a Baron buff as well, so you have to think that after the hearts, the base is not going to take too much longer to take down, as Wushin going to try desperately to clear out these minions, and has done fantastically well in the farm, and his score doesn't look too bad, but it's not quite working out in the team fights, and we just saw the fact that Wushin just in the end of these fights tends to just be left alone and he'll just die.
I think they really need to kind of workshop this Urgot comp a little bit more. The lack of range damage has removed sieging as an option, and they're losing team fights at this point because of their mis-execution earlier. Now at this point, they just lack damage. Even if they get the right swaps, you feel like with the Mikhails and the Zeke's Herald actually completed by PYL.
My goodness.
We're talking about 30... Sorry, he's got to Blade of the Ruin King as well.
Yeah, he's going to be on like
doing some
50%.
mathematics. Blade the Ruined King's what,
Oh my
15% lifesteal?
Yep.
There's 20% coming through from the Bloodthirst, so probably 3% from runes, or at least some runes of mastery will be a little bit of lifesteal. And then the lazy 10% from the Zeeks. We're talking about, at minimum, around 40% lifesteal.
Yeah.
If the Doran Blade's still there. So probably about 40% lifesteal coming through from the Kog'Maw and the Mikhails. Good luck killing him with all the tanky damage. Unless you get the exact perfect, say, Cho'Gath hit all 3 spells, he's going to live.
Yeah, and even the ults coming through from Liam and MLXG as well. He can auto-attack during most of that one. The knockup's not going to be there for too long. As you can see there, they are all coming through, and Imbi's just getting bounced around. But you can see he doesn't take too much damage. That shockwave was godlike onto 4 members. Imp is somehow still alive. Picks up a triple kill as well as Wushin finds himself the last man standing. Sky does finally get the kill onto Imp, but a 1 for 5. And LGD make it look easy.
And LGD have finally shown the world the Kog'Maw ball carrier comp, as everyone was on top of Kog'Maw. All the melee champions, gap closing on top of him for the picture-perfect equalizer. Beautiful stuff from LGD. This should be the game for them. Not sure if they have quite enough time. It's still relatively early in the game, only 34 minutes into it. Nautilus is already up. They probably won't be able to finish the game, but it's been over for about 10 minutes now, Atlas, as after the misfire, King have been outscaled, and LGD are back to their best.
LGD looking so incredibly strong. 4-0-11 for Wayless on this Orianna here as well, and that was one of the best shockwaves I have ever seen. And like you said, the Kog'Maw ball carrier, no worries at all.
I mean, the other thing you don't remember, this is Orianna Kog'Maw. One of the old comps that CLG loved to run was Orianna Tristana, just because he had long range and it was just an extra shield for more defensive statistics. We're talking about so much, and without going necessarily for a Protector Kog'Maw, we're still getting the Eye of the Storm shield, the Bloodthirster shield, the Orianna shield, the 40% lifesteal we've already discussed. This Kog'Maw is so effectively tanky, auto-attacking through most of the spells, as you mentioned, and then acting as a ball carrier, because all King can hope to do is get in melee range of the Kog'Maw and do damage. That's basically, they do all their damage in melee range, barring Urgot. And they're getting punished for it.
Yeah, they get caught in the hula hoop of death that Wayless is going to bring down on top of them as well as Acorn. He's going to face check a whole lot of CC here as well. Just gets bounced around. It's a really nice equalizer though. The Sonya's comes through. MLXG's going to fall down. Lay him not too far afterwards. And that was beautifully turned around by LGD. Assassin, he gets exhausted, and the tired Cho'Gath going to fall down as Wayless picks up a double. And King, they tap the mat, and you can understand exactly why. LGD just running all over the top of them towards the end of that game.
And King in their first match of their 6-match gambit this weekend. Remember, they played 6 out of their 8 remaining games. This team equal in points at the bottom of the table with M3 in terms of 8th spot. They are desperate to make it to playoffs. They were highly tipped, remember, of the LSPL teams. They were thought to be the ones to impress the most and just get up there to the 4th or 5th spots.
Yeah.
Snake has been the one that will take that mantle. They're already guaranteed playoffs. And any more games like that, and King, they're going to have to look over their shoulder. There are many teams trying to close into that 8th spot.
Yeah, and I mean, I really liked the team comp. It might have just been maybe a little bit too much experimentation to go on when these games still matter so much for the likes of King. Coming through from LGD, if they were to try that one out, their position in the playoffs, a little bit more guaranteed. But King, they have to be very serious about this one. But ladies and gentlemen, there is, of course, still one more game to go in this series, and we'll see whether King go back to a little bit